ES Audio.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby. Support with pride.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Dallaglio. Welcome to the Evening Standards Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. It's been an absolutely cracking weekend of rugby, whichever team you support. So we've got plenty to talk about, and I'm delighted to be joined by the voice of Evening Standards Rugby, Steve Cording, and of course, my very glamorous co-presenter, Sarra Elgan.
And our special guest is the man who captained Exeter to a thrilling win over Harlequins this weekend. It's the Chiefs hooker, Cowan Dickie. Hey Luke, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. A little bit tired from yesterday, more emotionally than anything. But yeah, so I'm feeling good, thanks.
Yeah, talking about rescuing victory from the jaws of defeat. Have you kind of recovered from the excitement? What's it like to be part of that game? Because for the fans and the neutrals, it was a brilliant watch. What was it like to be in it?
It was good. Obviously, end of the game, the result is all this matters. So, we had a chat after the game, and to get a 5-point victory against any side in the Prem is good going. Obviously, we're largely in front for the first half, going into the second half, and we're quite dominant. So, I think there was mixed emotions. I think, we had to celebrate it for what it was. And then when we get into training tomorrow, we'll then analyse it, because there's quite a few things that didn't go well, but then there was a few things that did. So,
Luke, you've been, Exeter have obviously, you won 3 out of 3, which is fantastic. As you say, the results, especially early season, really important to get 3 wins. But 2 of those at home have both been with the last play of the game when the clock's in the red. You make that sort of a real habit of that kind of grandstand finish, if you like. I guess a bit of change in your coaching setup in terms of Rob moving upstairs and Ali taking more of a hands-on role. Talk us through a little bit about pre-season and how that has gone for you guys, because clearly you worked pretty hard during pre-season.
Yeah, so luckily enough, I missed it pretty much most of it anyway. Because the boys are in from blooming 6 a.m. till about 7 p.m. Now, they worked hard. We knew after last season we had to sort of rebrand ourselves, just change a few things of what we're doing. And the boys definitely worked hard in season. Obviously, the defensive coach has changed and the whole system has, and also the attack stuff has changed. So
it's obviously subtle changes, but are you playing a bit more differently to the way you did last season? Because, there's been a few changes to the law, obviously. So you don't spend as much time 5 yards from the line as maybe you used to in seasons gone by. But do you feel there's a different style about the team at the minute?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the whole attack system's changed pretty much. So obviously it was fresh for me on the weekend. I've only really trained 2 weeks, so to fit in was quite tough. But now it's been good. Obviously, we're still good at picking going and 5 yards out. It's just how we adapt to, like you said, the new laws. So we've got a few new things in place. And yeah, I just feel like the boys are definitely getting on board. I think the first game of the season we played against Leicester and yesterday's game, I think definitely showed our attack off really well. Obviously, let us down a little bit against Worcester, but we're all taking shape at the minute. Obviously, we need our defence to start clicking now, and then hopefully it'll be a full performance.
Okay, Luke, so before we get on to full analysis of the matches from the weekend, let's delve a little bit deeper into the world of Luke Cowan Dickie.
Don't forget, you can also watch the full extended video podcast at londonpridebeer.co.uk. Please drink responsibly.
I know that you were born and raised in Cornwall, along with a couple of the other Chiefs players. Just give us a little bit of an insight into what your sort of early rugby journey was all about. Was it something that you were sort of planning? Because I know you come from a fishing family. Maybe you had ideas of being on the boat rather than on the pitch.
Yeah, well, to be fair, like you said, my family weren't really rugby orientated, so at first, it was more just a hobby. So I started when I was about 4 or 5. And yeah, pretty much fishing. There's a lot of fishermen down there. So went out on my dad's boat a couple of times when I was quite young, which wasn't the nicest. So I'm glad, obviously, this has worked out. But yeah, so it was pretty much a hobby for me up until the age probably of 15, 16, when the academy, sort of Exeter Academy coaches, Rob and Cowlin, started approaching guys about going to college. Because at that point, obviously, if he didn't approach me, I probably wouldn't have went to college. I probably went on the fishing boats. So yeah, I sort of got a lifeline with him, went to college. Truro College at Exeter Academy, and then signed pretty much straight after that.
I presume you still keep your hand in and go out on the boats occasionally when Dad asks you to?
No, I've got no time for that, mate. All rest, I'm not training.
Luke, I tell you what though, if it hadn't worked out for you in rugby, you could have been a pro gamer, couldn't you? Were you not like world number 1 for Call of Duty at some stage?
I was, but I was injured, I was single, had a lot of time on my hands. So,
I was single.
So I spent probably the 8 months I was out gaming. So yeah, it would have been good, but obviously you can only game a certain amount when you've got a kid at home, and
When you get back into camp, you and Genji and a few of the other boys will get the console out and have a bit of a go?
Yeah, normally me and Genji normally try and room together because we're normally up a bit later than most people, and we game quite a bit together. So yeah, there's a good group, to be fair. There's a good group of gamers.
Luke, as a proud Cornishman, how do you feel about playing in Exeter, and would you love one day to go back and play for the Pirates in the Prem?
Yeah, it would have been nice. Obviously, they had some chances, didn't they, a few years back? It'd be nice if there was a Prem side down in Cornwall, because pretty much most of the guys that are any decent in Cornwall, obviously the Matt Vazies and me and Ozzy, them boys, we all have to move up to here or further to play in sort of top flight rugby. Never managed to play for Pirates when I was younger, because obviously I was on loan to Plymouth, so that was obviously a bit annoying. But yeah, maybe one time in my career, maybe when I'm a lot older and I'm about to retire, then I might pop down there if they're willing to have me. But it would be nice, definitely, to play with the home crowd.
There's quite a few of you, Luke, isn't there? Yourself, Jack Noel, who I know you've obviously grown up with. I think Henry Slade's had a similar journey where you've all kind of grew up in and around the area and then, moved over to the Chiefs. A similar story to myself at Wasps when I joined aged 18. There was a whole load of us that have been there right from the start. That builds kind of quite a deep bond and friendship and relationship with a lot of those players. Yeah,
definitely. There's the guys who are playing now. Obviously, the team's changed over the last couple of years a bit, but the core group that we had coming through, we played with each other, age group stuff, England age group stuff. So we've all been quite tight. I've been playing with Nosey since I was about 4. I played with Slady since about 14. Alec Hepburn, the same. There's quite a few of the guys in there. And then as soon as I've been at the Chiefs now 11 years, and we're sort of all in the academy. There's about 5 or 6 of us in the academy, and our goal was to all play for the first team together at the same time, and we made it happen. And now, like you see, I think the success definitely was how Exeter ran the academy to start with, and obviously the quality of guys that we brought through, and then we're all together. And now you can see we're sort of the core of the group.
And we saw that emotion as well. You're saying that you're a deep bond and you're all in the academy together. I think the moment I saw that was when you lifted the Champions Cup in Ashton Gate. I felt like it was even more special for you guys, and I think for us watching, because we knew the journey that the core of you had been on, if that makes sense. Was that the moment for you as well, that you were like, we've made it?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Obviously, like previous to that, our Champions Cup sort of run has been awful, and we knew we were building. We were getting into Prem finals, and even that first Prem final that we got to, it was a massive step for us, because there was quite a few of us, like you said, that's been brought up through the academy that was in the team. So I think, the journey, and like you said, the double, I think was definitely the height of us as an academy guys. At first, we just wanted to play for the first team, and then to win a double with the guys you grew up with, was definitely special. A bit annoying, obviously, crowds weren't there, but it was still good. I think it just made the moment with your friends, the guys who you grafted all year with, a bit more special. So that's the way of looking at it.
What's the chat been like amongst the boys that Sam Simmons is going to go at the end of the season? How do the rest of the boys feel about that?
To be fair, I only actually properly found out before the game, so there hasn't really been too much chat about it. But yeah, obviously it's disappointing, but people decide to leave and decide to go places for certain reasons, and obviously it's his decision to do that, and I wish him all the best. Obviously, Gus thinks he's a quality player, but we've got him for another year at our place, so hopefully he'll do some magic for us and win us a few trophies.
Yeah, it was good to see him named in the England squad, because of course he will be eligible to play in the World Cup, and he's going to go after that. Another player that was in that squad, Jack Noel, and I think he's your next door neighbour as well.
Yeah, he's literally just over that gate.
We found a photo of you two playing for England age group together, which was very funny. I mean, the lids have obviously changed a little bit since then. Not that I can talk about that, but do you have one hairdresser for the pair of you then?
Nah, so back in them days, my mum used to cut my hair, so that's why obviously I had my mullet and bleached mullet, whatever really she fancied doing, I had. But now, we've got a barber now in Crediton. His name's Rob. Obviously, it's free cuts, which is major. Anything's free is brilliant. But now, we go to him all the time. So, and again, he's down to do whatever to our hair. As you can tell, a lot of the Exeter boys have strange hairdos. So yeah.
I am going to ask you about England, because it's obviously a very exciting year for you. I know that you don't focus on it straight away, but you are in the squad. You've got a block of 3 kind of parts of the season, really: autumn, and then Six Nations, and then obviously, fingers crossed everything goes well for the World Cup. Obviously, it is an exciting year. How do you feel about what's going on with the team? There's a lot of changes to that squad, isn't there? I mean, it's obviously there's a few out injured, but it feels like there's a really different feel about it going into this World Cup year.
Yeah, definitely. I think summer tour was brilliant. We had quite a few changes, but the group itself, the core group, was still the same. It's weird to say. It's not like it's a sort of a club vibe, but obviously it's not as international. But the way the boys are, the way we knit, there's no cliques. Over the last few years, that's definitely been the best it's been. And even Australia going down first test, for us boys, because we had quite a few young boys on the bench too. To come back from that, I think it shows a lot of strengths in the team. So like you said, I'm excited. There's quite a few guys in and out with injuries and stuff like that. But again, there's no disruptions when they come in or they go out, because quite a few boys these days now, we've found when we're outside, obviously, of England stuff, you still sort of keep an eye on it. You still sort of chat to the boys. So, the England guys that you're with. So we try and keep in contact. And if you're back in, it's pretty much a seamless switch.
And Lou, you must have a good relationship with Eddie Jones because he played hooker himself. So he must have a little soft spot for you crazy guys in the front row.
Yeah, me and Eddie got on well, mate. Obviously, early on in my career, we didn't go on too well. But now, yeah, he's mint, to be fair.
You were saying that like the vibe has changed like recently. What do you think that's down to? I
don't know. I think, we have certain boys on socials, not drink socials, but just socials, whether it's, go-karting or going cinema and a lot of boys are just buying into that. I think guys just enjoying each other's company. And I think there's definitely a want to win. Like, everyone wants to win, obviously, but I feel like at the moment the boys are desperate to win. So I definitely feel like that is definitely, put us in the right step.
Thanks, Lou. We're going to have some more questions for you a little later on, but should we round up the weekend's action then? Gents, it'll always start on Friday night. It's all Wasps visiting Bath at the Rec. Both teams looking for their first win of the season. At half-time, they looked like the same old story, didn't it, for Bath? But what a second half. I mean, not one that Wasps fans will want to relive, apart from the final whistle, I'm sure, but it was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, it was a difficult week for Wasp players, I would imagine, given all the news off the field. But I think Joe Launchbury, Jack Willis and the guys got everyone together, and it can go one of two ways, and I think they made sure that it went the right way. They came out the blocks really fast. They played some outstanding rugby, to be honest, which they have done in the first two games. They just haven't done it for the whole match. And I think Wasps, when they're at their best, they've got that ability. As you said, they don't do it easy, do they? I mean, I think they were winning so comfortably at half time, and then all of a sudden Bath come right back into the match. So a lot for Bath to sort of hold on to, but it's a big job to do there. There is a massive job. They are conceding 5 tries a game at least, which suggests that there's an issue culturally to me. I'm no defence coach, but if you're not getting off the floor and getting yourself back in the game quicker than they are at the moment, you're going to struggle. I guess you could look at that match and then just say, well, that was a blueprint for the rest of the weekend, because every single game, bar maybe one, was sort of high scoring, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Because on Saturday, Bristol, they continued their winning run. They saw visitors London Irish. What was it? Was it 40 points to 36, I think, the final score there? Ellis Genge, Steve again making his mark for the Bears. It's fair to say that he's already offering kind of talisman status, isn't it, to Pat Lam and his team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Pat Lam said, even though they've got 14 out of 15 points, he's still not completely satisfied with the way they play, but it's difficult to see where they can improve, probably defensively. But I mean, I think there's obviously a danger of looking at Genji and going, he's the talisman, he's the one who's leading it forward. But there were some outstanding performances from the other Bristol players as well. I mean, I think particularly Harry Randall, Luke Morahan, who both scored tries, really, really played well. And I think they're not just a one-man team. Clearly, he's made a difference in terms of changing that mentality. But I think there are other people to look at. And in terms of Irish, I mean, I think if you're going to buy a season ticket this year, it's probably they're the ones to watch. I mean, first team to 100 points before Chiefs and Quins both got past that mark this weekend, but obviously just need to improve. I think Les Kiss said they had a great start and a great end and a terrible middle. So that's clearly something that they need to work on, but definitely the entertainers of the Premiership anyway.
Luke, Ellis Genge, you obviously know him pretty well, I'd have thought. What is it about his personality that, I don't know, I guess people follow, don't they? He had that effect at the Tigers and now he's having it again with the Bears.
He's quite upfront, so he says what he thinks. He doesn't beat around the bush. And I think that's what you like about him. All of his emotion is basically shown, especially in training and in games. He's quite tough sometimes to build up to a game. He gets a bit more aggressive, a bit more angry as the game gets closer. But that's what you like, especially when he's on your team. You know he's in a good way. But yeah, that's probably what it is. He's just straight up front with you. You know what you're getting.
Okay, so last Saturday saw the 250th East Midland derby between Northampton and Leicester. Last week you predicted Northampton would take that game. You were wrong. I'm just pointing that out for you. But anyway, they started well. Lawrence, didn't they?
That's my problem. I always used to think as a player, if I'm playing at home against anyone, you're going to win. But you have to believe that, because it's the most important thing about winning is believing that you can win. And to be honest, 20 minutes into the game, so I thought that actually Northampton were not only going to win, but win by a lot. They're a very, very accomplished rugby side. They play some very pretty stuff, but what they haven't quite got at the moment is that real kind of that core of steel that runs through their forward pack, especially when Courtney Laws went off halfway through the game. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, the set piece is such a massive part of the game now. And Leicester, as we know, everything starts and finishes with their set piece. And good old Dan Cole and the boys just did a complete job on them, really, just smashed them to pieces. And it's a bit of a worry for Northampton. You know, they will win more games than they lose. There's no doubt about that. They're a quality side. But their record against the top teams around them, Exeter, Quins, Gloucester and Leicester, is woeful. And the reason it's woeful is because their set piece is not good enough. And they either need to sell a fly half and go and buy a couple of international props, or they need to find a way of staying in games and hanging in games. Listen, I didn't have the best scrum. We didn't have the best scrum at Wasps. And every time we played against Leicester, we just found a way of surviving, if you like, and trying to move the focus of attack away from the scrum. Don't drop the ball, that helps. But I felt for them, but Leicester were magnificent when they hung on in there, and the second half performance was outstanding. Obviously, Freddie Stewart, 3 tries, but really it was Dan Cole, Joe Hayes, and the boys that did the job on Northampton.
Sarra pointed it out, though, in commentary. How small, Luke, is that away dressing room at Northampton? And would that be your motivation to go out there and win? It is tiny.
Looks like a cupboard.
There's quite a few small ones, to be fair.
Do you know when you go turn up at a ground, they're going to turn up the heating here and it's going to be tiny and there's going to be no room?
Of course.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. That's normally what happens. But if it doesn't happen, you're winning. Do you know what I mean? So they're going to have to do something.
You got it too nice at Sandy Park. They look nice and roomy, those changing rooms, aren't they?
They're nice. Yeah, they're decent. I do sometimes say we should leave a floater in the toilet. Never get past, but we're not allowed to do that.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby.
Can I ask you though, Luke, about kind of Leicester scrum really quickly? Like, how difficult is it to go up against them when they are firing like they were in that second half on Saturday?
Yeah, it's tough. Like Law said, set piece is pretty much everything at the moment. You've seen in our game on the weekend, we managed to win in the end, but there was parts our set piece, our scrum was letting us down. Leicester scrum, when they're on and they're on, you're struggling straight from the start. It's easy field position. If you're going to get pens from your scrum, which Leicester do, they can just march you up the field, which, is quite daunting. But like Law said, you need to try and survive that. We're all a lot smarter these days. There's things you can do to sort of help you in the set piece, but that can only go a certain way.
I think the challenge and the thing that Ali Heifer would have been really pleased about is that they've got themselves Chiefs got themselves in a bit of a hole at the weekend where the game was slipping away from them. But they did this against Leicester. They found a way on the field of working that out and coming up with the right solutions, not waiting until Monday morning till the debrief and going, well, why didn't we do this, this and this? Same with Leicester. Leicester were in a bit of a pickle after 20 minutes. And yet they hung on in there and they found a way of getting the solutions at the end of the game. And that brings us sort of nicely on to Saracen Sar. I mean, they were terrible in the first half. Nothing they did was anywhere near the standards they set. But Owen Farrell and co kind of found a way of turning it around. And that's what really good sides do. It's not about waiting till you're in the debrief on Monday morning and going, well, why didn't we do that? It's about coming up with the solutions either at half time or halfway through the second half. And Saracens did exactly that, really. When you're 36-20 down against a team as good as Gloucester, you shouldn't really be winning that game, but they did.
What did you think of it, Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Lol, actually. I mean, Farrell, obviously Mark McCall said afterwards he lives for those moments. I mean, has he got to play it at 10 now for England?
Well, look, I've been very clear about it. I'm not Eddie Jones and not the England coach, but if Manu and Slady are fit, I think Farrell starts for me at 10. He's a test match animal, and I would have Marcus on the bench and I bring him on. And I do believe that both of them can coexist on the same rugby field. I just don't think starting them against some of the top teams necessarily works as well as it can. I think Owen is a much better 10 than he is a 12, and there's room to have two of them in the squad. So that for me, but obviously we've been forced down that route because Manu has never managed to stay fit, but hopefully touchwood, he seems to be in great nick at the minute.
Okay, so we move on then. Worcester welcomed Newcastle to Six Ways. At the time that we're recording this, we're still not certain about Worcester's future. But if that is their last game, we hope that it's not at home, obviously. What a great way for the players to make a final statement.
You felt sorry for them because it was a bit of a funeral atmosphere there, really. I mean, I'm led to believe that Steve Diamond gave them a vote on the Friday as to whether they would play because they didn't have to play. And the players unanimously said, of course we're going to play, because there's all sorts of issues around insurance. If they get injured medically, what happens to them if there's no physios at the club, etc. So no player had to play, but they obviously all voted unanimously to do that. And they've left their mark. I mean, it didn't sound good from what Steve Diamond was saying saying that, he's given them a week off, which kind of says everything really about what he thinks will happen. And if I was reading between the lines, I think looks like they will be going into administration, but he feels there might be something further down the line. So fingers crossed. As you said, they played very well. What's going on with those lime jerseys from Newcastle, by the way? Where have they popped up?
I like them.
I thought, Steve, you borrowed one. You're wearing it on.
Okay, let's talk Harlequins, Exeter then, and that kind of just rounded off, didn't it? A fantastic weekend of matches. Sunday's game, Luke, it was a real roller coaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mental, if you ask me. First half, obviously, things were coming off for us. We were really on top. We got a decent point lead. We were scoring tries. Everything was going really well. Coming into half time, boys weren't too happy. We knew we had another half to do, another job. And yeah, we just sort of started crumbling. We just couldn't really get a hand on the game again. They were up in the set piece. They were scoring tries. Their boys were missing tackles. At that point, I was on the bench, so I could have no impact in the game. So it was even worse for me. The last minute try obviously was pretty mad. We were on our 5 metre line, probably 3 or 4 phases going nowhere. And next minute we're up the other side scoring.
Did you have a better view of the, I'll put it in inverted commas, forward pass than the TMO?
No, it wasn't.
Harlequins were happy though, were they?
It wasn't forward. I think they got to the right decision. Had the game been played at Harlequins, it probably would have been...
the other way around.
I think I don't think Harlequins can grumble. They've rolled the dice on so many occasions in that situation, and they've come out on top. So it's just one. They still came away with 2 points, and I think everyone left thinking that they'd watched a thoroughly brilliant game of rugby.
What's the feeling like at the moment, Luke? Because I think there was a feeling, wasn't there, at the end of last season, that you guys didn't kind of hit your own or reach your own expectations, that you let yourself down a little bit last term. Does it feel different? Does it feel like a different environment at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of had a few debriefs last season. There's sort of 6 or 7 of us in the leaders group. We sat down with the coaches and sort of planned ahead for this year. And like I said, pretty much everything has changed as much as it can do. I feel like last season we were sort of divided to a certain extent, players, coaches, physio. We sort of weren't one team, whereas this year it's definitely better.
Do you like the new logos?
I don't mind it. It looks a bit like Knowlesy and Ryland, doesn't it, put together? So, so yeah, I'll go with it, mate. I'll go with it.
That's good to hear. Okay, then, so shall we then decide which player from the weekend was outstanding?
Outstanding. Supported by Fuller's London Pride.
So many incredible performances this weekend. The rugby was brilliant. Lawrence, who are you going for?
Well, I'm going to go for an older gentleman. I think he's about 35 years of age. He plays prop. His name's Dan Cole. And I just think when you retire from international rugby or you're stood down and you're no longer picked in the international team, the motivation to play at that level is quite tough, but he's got himself in great nick. Probably the best shape I've seen him in for a long time. And he was outstanding at the weekend, scrummaging, but he was carrying as well. He was, trying to get back to make tackles. I just thought his all-round game was superb. So he's my outstanding player of the week on that King Cole.
Steve?
It has to be Luke Cowan Dickie, doesn't it? 47 outstanding minutes.
Oh, outstanding.
Outstanding. We want him to come back on again. I'm going to go back to Friday night. Actually, Lowell's old team, Wasps. Jacob Umaga at fullback. I loved his performance on Friday night. Set up 3 tries, 2 long passes, 19 points. I thought for me, he was my outstanding player of the weekend.
He looks like he's been to Crediton to have his hair cut as well, by the look of him. He's had a whole bottle of that hair fluid on his hair. It works anyway.
It's called bleach, Lawrence. It's called bleach. Hair fluid. Oh, God.
Did you never have your hair bleached back in the day then, Long? No?
Mate, I tried. I did it myself with food colouring. That's probably why.
You weren't a new romantic. No.
Didn't go so well. Don't try that at home.
Okay, Luke, have you got anyone for us?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to go with my guy, Chris, number 7, the Welsh guy from the weekend. He scored 2 tries and he's only young. He's still really young, but the way he performed on the weekend, it's like he's been playing loads of games. So, and to get the last, obviously, match-winning try. So, yeah, for me, it's Chris.
I was actually going to go maybe for Chris or Luke Northmore. I thought he was good. But I think I'm going to go for Billy Sal, actually, just because, I'm emotional. And I just loved the whole story of Worcester winning at the weekend. And I just thought it was a really accurate display. And for what they've been going through recently, I just thought it was a really good performance. So there you go. Okay, so those are the outstanding players done. So shall we look ahead really quickly to next weekend then? Quick chat through round 4. Let's make a few predictions. Newcastle host Bristol at Kingston Park. It's not been a great start for them, but they are at home. What do we think will happen there, Steve?
I think Brownie summed it up for us last week, really, where Newcastle are, and you can't see anything but a Bristol win, I'm afraid. They're 4 out of 4 for Bristol.
London Irish Bath, how are we seeing this one go, Lawrence? Is it tough to call?
Do you know what? It's difficult to call because I think Bath will be. I just think then they've got to stop leaking tries. And if there's one team that scores tries, it's London Irish. And so I think that they've got a lot of work to do on the training park. And I'm not sure how much of that you can get done in a week. So I do see London Irish bouncing back and winning that one.
Okay, so Sale welcome Exeter, who no doubt we've heard were buzzing after yesterday. Both teams unbeaten, Steve. I mean, this promises to be a really good contest, doesn't it, this one?
It does. It's a really tough one to call.
Remember, I'm Saturday, right?
Yeah. I'm actually going to say that Luke's going to score the winning try as time expires.
On the 47th minute.
Yeah,
exactly.
46-30.
No, I think the Chiefs look really good, refocused, repurposed. There's obviously a lot of belief there. It'll be a tough match at Sale, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs away win.
Happy with that, Luke?
Yeah, very happy, mate. Yeah. If anything else, I'd have hung up.
So we've only got two more games to go, so I'll hang up yet. Right, Saracens Leicester. I mean, that's another one to look forward to. Another matchup between two unbeaten teams. Who'll be the most confident, Luke, going into this, do you think?
I don't know. I'd say Leicester will be obviously quite confident, and their set piece is going well. But again, Saracens and Leicester, they both have good set piece. I think it's going to be tough. I think it'll be close. I'm going to have to say Saracens, I think. If it's a close one and there's a couple of minutes to go, Saracens always come out top.
And last but not least, Northampton travelled to the Stoop, Lawrence. Both teams in good positions to come away with a win last weekend, but they didn't. So who's coming out on top of this?
You know what? I think it's a really interesting one to call because similar styles of the rugby, they like to get the ball out into the wide channels. But Quins are a tough team to beat at home. So I'd go with Quins just. But I think Alex Dombrandt's still out injured, isn't he? He's not in the England squad. I think, he's actually quite key to, he does a lot of things that, they've got some great players in their pack, but he does a lot of things that those players can't do. So if he's missing again this weekend, Northampton still have a very good chance of winning.
Okay, so should we put our guest then, Lawrence, under the spotlight?
Tackled. Supported by Fuller's London Pride.
Hope we don't embarrass you in any way. I think you might have listened to last week's questions, but they're quite quick, so don't need to think too much about them. Your full name, please?
Luke Anthony Cowan Dickie.
Anthony. All right, Tony, what's your favourite takeaway?
5 Guys.
Any celebrity crush?
I haven't actually got one there.
Okay, I can understand that. What was the last film you watched? What was the last movie you watched?
The last movie, I can't actually remember the last movie, but I'm watching that Jeffrey documentary on Netflix, isn't it? Jeffrey, whatever his name is.
Sarah knows that. She watches everything.
I do. I love a bit of Netflix.
What did you have for breakfast when you were up with your little son, Arlo?
I just had a shake this morning.
Did you?
Fasting. Yeah.
Have you got an obvious nickname, or do you have a couple at the club?
Dickie, mainly.
What about Luke Cowan Dickie? I read that.
Yeah,
that didn't stick, did it?
Nah, it stuck for about a month. Yeah, about a month. It still comes up every now and again.
Okay, who is the most famous person in your phone other than your next door neighbour?
Yeah, I was going to say him. Robin Cowling.
There we go. And who would play you in a film of your life?
Jack Black.
That's a great shout.
Well, that probably answers the next question. Who's the funniest person you know?
Well, I don't know him, but Jack Black, yeah.
Yeah. Are you a dog or cat person?
Dog.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
I have 2 French bulldogs, yeah.
And I don't know why I knew you were going to say you had French bulldogs.
I know. Well, they say that dogs look like their owners, don't they?
You'll have a great day then, won't you?
I wish. What's your favourite karaoke song?
So Elvis Presley it'll be an Elvis Presley song. Any? Actually, Suspicious Minds probably, yeah.
Have you seen the film?
No, I haven't actually seen it. No.
So good.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it.
And which superhero would you most like to be?
Yeah, I'll go Superman.
Who's the best rugby player of all time? Or who's the hooker that you watched growing up that you really, really thought that really got you excited about rugby?
Oh, I can't remember his name. It was the Kiwi hooker literally years ago. I can't remember his name now.
Sean Fitzpatrick, Norm Hewitt.
No, not as late back as that.
Mia Lamu.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, he got about 200 caps for New Zealand. He was a very good player.
Yeah.
And what has been your most memorable rugby moment? You've had a few. You've been capped for England. You've done the double. What's been the one that sticks in your mind and you think, God, I wish if I could, it never got any better than that?
Probably, well, the double. It's weird because it's two, but that year, the sort of the last 2 weeks of that year. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's pretty special. I think that we can accept that. I think that's a very nice moment. That's all for this episode of the Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. My thanks to Sarra and to Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, and a thanks to Luke Cowan Dickie, of course, for being such a great guest. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to follow us and make sure that you don't miss a single episode. And if you like them, when you hear them, then please give us a wonderful rating.
Remember, you can watch the full extended video podcast of today's episode at londonpridebeer.co.uk.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby. Support with pride.